Favi, man, what a tough loss for Major League Soccer and the Vancouver Whitecaps, losing to Cruz Azul 5-0 in the Concacaf Champions Cup final. Ah, man, was this? I thought this was unexpected. How do you feel about the results of the Concacaf Champions League final?
Honestly, shocking. It should ring every single alarm in the MLS headquarters. This was embarrassing if you were an MLS fan. I remember we were talking, pregame. Maybe we see like a 2-2, a 2-1, or even like you were saying a 3-1. We were confident in this Vancouver side. And without Sebastian Berhalter, they just completely folded. I mean, this team just went down 4-0 really quickly in the first half, and then the fifth goal was just the icing on the cake, and it was a party at the Ciudad de Mexico for Cruz Azul. I mean, Cruz Azul is a good team. Let's not forget that. I mean, they bought one of the best players in MLS last season with Matty Bogusz. They added him to his lineup. They bought Giamakis, two players that were good players in MLS.
Hey, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're less than 200 subscribers away from 7,000, and our goal is to hit 7K by the Club World Cup. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of my videos. Now, back to the video.
And they were able to give them bigger salaries, and they were able to have as many DPs as they wanted to, right? To go ahead and win this trophy. And honestly, this just was a David versus Goliath. And even myself, I was convoluted, and I didn't, I had faith for once in a CONCACAF Champions final, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that faith died within the first 9 minutes when Vancouver let a goal in, and it was just downhill from there.
Well, and also too, it just felt, I can't believe this is the same team that had been dominating Major League Soccer all season long. Like, this looked like a deer in headlights, never been on the big stage before in their entire life. Any of the guys on the field, like, there wasn't a single player in this match that I think played well. Not a single player. The whole entire starting 11 and even the guys who subbed in were bad. And he brought up Sebastian Berhalter. I think maybe he could have played a helping hand and maybe helping them do something better than what we saw on Sunday night. But let's be honest, dude, they were finished from the start. They had no energy. They looked like they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And you could just see, I looked this up before. I think maybe you were on the stream, maybe you weren't when I looked this up. But if you look at Vancouver's record transfer fee, it would be Cruz Azul's 19th highest transfer fee spending wise. Cruz Azul bought 4 players last year for $10 million or more. So they essentially add 4 DPs in MLS terms to their team in just one offseason. Paid $11 million for a center back. His name's slipping my mind right now, but $10 million for a center back from Chivas. We can't compete with that.
What's wild to think is, like, the Quakes have never had a transfer over $6.5 million, and Cruz Azul had 4 transfers over 10,000 or 10 million. Yeah. Excuse me. That's insane to just think about, right? Like, yeah, San Jose is not the pinnacle of MLS, but still, it's just a normal MLS team and versus a good Liga MX team, but it's just completely different roster rules, completely different rosters. This team was stacked, and it was evident and shown in that game yesterday.
I was talking to my buddy Vince, and I'm going to make a reference to your local team that's moving, sadly, by the way. It's like MLS is trying to win the whole league or win all these tournaments playing Moneyball. The whole league is playing Moneyball. That's their whole identity. Where nobody is telling us we have to make these rules and mechanisms, but we want to see if we can win it by doing these rules and weird mechanisms in the league. Nobody's saying you have to have 3 DPs or U22s or TAM and GAM. This is kind of like their own thing. If they took the roster restrictions off, loosen things up, does anyone really believe Major League Soccer wouldn't be competing and winning this every year? I mean, they would, because Liga MX doesn't have any roster restrictions at all. They could spend as much as they want. And even they, besides this game, aren't just running away with it. I mean, an MLS team did make it to the final. It's closer than some people, would think. And even Leagues Cup, which I'm not bringing this up because Leagues Cup, I don't put any stock into it. But keep in mind, Favi, when these European teams come over here in the summer during preseason, they smoke all these MLS teams. Right. And they're coming way further. They're traveling way further. They're coming over to America, and they're just beating down all these MLS teams. Like, Liga MX isn't doing that. But that's not something to brag about. They're trying to play Moneyball. They're trying to do these weird rules that they're making up themselves. They're tying their own hands behind their back. Something's got to change, bro. Something's got to change.
100%. So part of me wanted Vancouver to win yesterday, but a part of me also said, if we lose, I want them to lose by a lot, because without being embarrassed, MLS is just going to keep the status quo. They're going to keep the same roster rules. I wish this was a bigger team getting beat. Honestly, I wish it was maybe like LA Galaxy being beat, or an LAFC being beat in the final, or Miami being beat in the final, so that the alarms would fire off a bit more, because Vancouver's looking to sell. Maybe they're going to sweep this under the rug and just say, hey, it's a team in transition. It's a team not utilizing all their assets. Ryan Gauld was injured. So they're going to throw all these excuses out. But in reality, it's 100% the roster regulations. Liga MX is still going to be king in this region until they loosen up at least 5 DPs, like at least that. I think that could get a couple of teams with the Moneyball aspect over the hump. But the biggest drawback for Vancouver yesterday, or the biggest thing that I saw that they were missing, was that veteran presence. I still think you need some sort of veteran if you're an MLS team. After seeing that, I was thinking, man, what if Giroud was on this team? What if they had a player that understood the moment, that understood the bright lights of this type of situation? And I think that's why this MLS 1.0 idea of getting old veterans is still relevant, because they still need those type of players for these moments. And I felt like Vancouver was just missing that player. And they could have used some more, better people on the roster. They did a great job. They made the final. They beat Mexican teams on the way there. They reminded me a lot of Columbus last year.
Right? I have to correct you because there's going to be people getting upset. They advanced against Mexican teams because they technically didn't beat them. People are going to get upset about you saying that. They advanced against Mexican teams
on away goals. Yes. But yeah, they advanced on away goals, and they made it to the next round. A lot like Columbus, to be honest. And then Columbus came up flat again. It was food poisoning. It was the altitude. Like, come on. We can't just send them over there for a week before to get accustomed to the altitude. Like, what's going on here? Like,
they played a game on Wednesday too, which is stupid.
Yeah. Why is why in 2025 is altitude an issue when they literally should have probably rescheduled the game on Wednesday to a different day, so that MLS can finally say that they won this trophy? But shout out to Seattle Sounders for doing it. Shout out to the LA Galaxy for doing it, because this is something that it's haunting MLS teams. This reminded me a lot of the Montreal America game that we all, saw back in the day. Remember that, Will, when everybody was for Montreal that season, because it was the impact and they made it all the way to the final, and then they played this behemoth of Club America, and they were so close, but yet so far. And honestly, this shades that for sure.
Well, also too, the crazy thing is that even with all the adjustments they've made as a league, MLS, all these new rules, right, which have helped the league get better compared to what it was 10 years ago, for them to still 10 years later lose a final. This was the record for the biggest loss in Concacaf Champions Cup final history by any MLS team. 5-0. Didn't even have a shot in the whole game. Not shot on target, not a shot the whole entire game. They just looked like they weren't even in the same league. This looked like a rec team versus a Premier League team out there. It wasn't even close. And like, that is a huge red flag to think that in 2025 you can't even score a goal in a Champions League final. Like, now people will joke about Inter Milan and they'll joke about PSG, how bad that game was. But I think that was just kind of like an outlier. Like, that Inter Milan, I don't know what the hell was their deal that day, because they beat Barcelona. They scored 10 goals on them in 2 games. Like, we saw that they're good. Vancouver, just nobody looked good. Like, not a single player looked good. And it's a huge red flag, Favi, because it's like, when it comes to this trophy that matters, it's the biggest trophy in North America, we're not any closer to winning it than we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I feel like this is why a lot of people were sad that Inter Miami lost, to be honest. This is the exact thing where you needed players to elevate to the moment, and we thought Brian White could. We thought, Cubas could. Man, Cubas had his worst game I've ever even seen in that jersey, right? I mean, he plays better against Lionel Messi, right? So it was disappointing. It was frustrating. It was sad. I mean, even the watch party board in Vancouver wasn't working. I mean, they said, turn it off, turn the TV off, right? Jeez. But yeah, we're not any closer than 10 years ago. Miami should have made it to the final, to be honest. And then if Miami made it to the final, it would have been a closer game, in my opinion. I think possibly Messi and Suarez would have saw the moment, Busquets would have played up to the moment. Jordi Alba would have played up to the moment. And to think that's an MLS roster as well is not really fair, because not everybody can do that. And they're playing Moneyball to the best ability in the world. I mean, this is the A's. This is Billy Bean with Miami, because not everybody can do it, and it was evident yesterday versus Cruz Azul.
Yeah, and Cruz Azul has been recently buying our best players, or some of our best players, and building them on their teams. Now, Giakoumakis, think about this. He was good for Atlanta. He scored like 19 goals in his first full season. They sold him halfway through last year, and they sold him, I want to say, for around $11 million to Cruz Azul, and he didn't even start in this game. They had an $11 million striker off the bench. We just don't have the depth. Gam, whatever is not enough to do what they got to do. But I want to read you this tweet from your favorite guy, and I want you guys to let me know down below if this is your favorite guy, Mr. DG himself, Don Garber. He said before this game started, could not have aged worse. 10 minutes before the game kicked off, Bob, he says, "What a run by the Whitecaps! One match from making history in the Concacaf Champions Cup final. Their incredible journey reflects the rise of Canadian soccer and the continued growth of MLS on the global stage. Good luck tonight."
No,
could that not have been the worst omen possible?
Honestly, I thought my tweets were worse. I mean, it could be a great weekend for MLS if Vancouver finalizes this win. No, man, that aged like milk, I want to say, to be honest, because you know what? They did make history as the worst loss in CONCACAF.
Not the right history, though.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, insane. Matty Bogusz was a player who scored 15 goals for LAFC before going to Cruz Azul. And then you were talking about Giakoumakis scoring 19 goals. This team has goal scoring ability. I mean, you could tell it was everybody on the score sheet yesterday. Everybody was talented. Honestly, it makes me kind of wonder what happened with America the night before, right? I think they were just gassed. I think they ended up not having legs because of their 2-leg final that they just had versus Toluca. And honestly, LAFC reaped the benefits once they went into extra time. But yeah, man, this is if I'm a Liga MX team and we're not winning like this against other than LA and Miami MLS teams, if we're not winning 5-0 versus like San Jose, I'm pissed. I'm firing that coach, and you're going to see some firings after Leagues Cup too, because remember with Monterrey there was some firings, there were some heads that rolled. Because Liga MX teams should be running the table versus MLS. And if they don't, it's a failure.
Yeah, but another thing, too, to point out is just the culture difference, right? Expectations. Greg Vanney was winless through 15 matches and got a contract extension, right? Absolutely crazy. They were saying last on the broadcast, which you weren't able to watch the game live because of you traveling back to San Jose, but they said during the game, Fabi, that Cruz Azul's manager might lose his job, win or lose that game. He might lose his job. Yeah, they said it didn't matter. Even if he wins, he's not guaranteed to keep his job. So I'm thinking this man could win the Champions final, CONCACAF Champions Cup final, and still lose his job. But Greg Vanney gets a contract extension after not winning a game through 15 matches. Just the competitiveness, what they breed in both countries of the environment of winning matters is completely different.
Well, personally, I've always thought that Liga MX fires coaches a little too soon. There's a nice little middle ground. Maybe Greg Vanney not being fired had a lot to do with the locker room still supporting him and Ricky Puig being injured. But yeah, anybody else? I mean, Peter Vermees for the longest time kept the job in MLS. That was insane. So Greg Vanney looks like peanuts compared to that. But anyway, yeah, no, that's so wild to think about that you can win the Champions Cup final and lift your 7th Champions Cup and be fired and always be remembered in history as one of the coaches to do it and still not have your job the next day. Insane. Mexico has just the highest standard for their teams. Well, and it makes sense because they spend so much money on those rosters. But yeah, no, MLS is so far behind in terms of the pressure that's on these coaches, the pressure that's on the league, the pressure that's on the players. In a way, it's what makes MLS. But when you're talking about these, intercontinental championships, it really exposes us.
Well, and that's another thing too. It's well, first of all, I said if Cruz Azul lets go that coach, any MLS team with a vacancy needs to be hitting him up and saying, "Yo, bro, you need to come here. We want you. You're the man, right?" But it also makes you wonder. It's like MLS living in a bubble, right? They say the league's good, it's great, but when you compare it to their leagues, it doesn't really hold up as well as you need it to hold up, like what you just said about continental, international tournaments, whatever. And the Club World Cup, which is right around the corner, is going to really show us the disparity between MLS and other teams around the world. We're going to be able to see the difference between Miami, Seattle, LAFC when they're playing against Atletico, PSG, Chelsea. Miami's playing, I want to say, Palmeiras, and they have another big team. I can't remember who else is in their group off the top of my mind, but there's going to be playing some big clubs around the world.
Benfica, if I'm not wrong.
Benfica, yes. Yeah, Benfica. That's exactly right. Yeah. Palmeiras, Benfica, and then Al Ali, I think, an Egyptian club.
Egyptian
yeah.
club. That already beat Seattle in the last
exactly.
World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, in 2023, the Club World Cup they did. So we'll get to see this and see what they do compared to other teams on the global stage. But it's just, I think that Don Garber's message of just telling the owners, trust the plan, keep it going, everything is working out, is starting to, people are starting to rally around like, hey man, this is not the right move. This is not going to get us where we need to go. We're not winning Champions League. Since you've been the commissioner of the league, we have won one Champions Cup final.
Two.
Was it 2000?
Yeah.
Was that the year DC United won, or was it?
No, LA Galaxy.
Okay, 2000. So, okay, excuse me. 2 Champions League finals out of 25, 26 years you've won.
Right. It's
okay, that's it. So what kind of progress are we really making? That's not good enough, in my opinion. So something has to change. I'm hoping that if we do get embarrassed at the Club World Cup, which the only team I know for sure is going to get embarrassed is Seattle. They're kind of the joke of the league right now for the Club World Cup because of their group is just insane, and they have no chance. Jesus Ferreira would have to go on a generational run that we've never seen before. He'd have to be balling like he does against the Caribbean teams to do anything.
The Pirate of the Caribbean is going to be there. Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow, Jesus Ferreira, same guy to me. All right.
We'll see. He's going to have to come through, but they're going to have to, if they get embarrassed in this tournament, then people are going to have to turn up the pressure again. I don't, this is a whole separate subject, but we saw that the Players Association for MLS, we saw that Seattle Sounders are protesting the Club World Cup, trying to get more fair wages. Like they think it's a money grab. I wish we saw that kind of passion when it came to just the normal roster rules, the normal salary cap, the Leagues Cup. Try to have that effort. Like, yeah, we think we deserve more. We need to be spending more money on the players. I wish we saw that. Hopefully, the pressure's turned on, and because of what happened, since they introduced TAM was supposed to be the game changer, Fabi. That was supposed to increase the middle roster talent. MLS has only won one Champions Cup since then, one time in the last 10 years since they introduced that in 2015. So it has not made the difference it was supposed to make. That was supposed to make MLS competitive and win Champions Cup finals. They still can't do it. Something has to change.
Yeah, no, 100%. One thing that could change really quickly is having a neutral site for the final. That could be also a thing that would help MLS greatly. I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about the altitude. You wouldn't have to worry about food poisoning. But where would you have it? Like Jamaica? Like where would you have it? El Salvador? So it's interesting. Or Canada. Toronto would be a good venue, right? It could be something. Or I guess it was a Canadian team. So maybe Florida, maybe Miami.
Right? In Texas or something.
Yeah, somewhere where you can have. Yeah, you're right. Texas, like a Q2 stadium in Austin, right? That would have been a perfect venue. 26,000, if I'm not mistaken, it would have filled up for sure. So yeah.
Or Houston.
Yeah, Houston too, if you wanted a bigger stadium, right?
Yeah, well, just because my buddy who covers Vancouver, he said that there was 8,000 fans traveling to Mexico. So I'm sure that they would have been 8,000 that would have traveled to Houston. That's not a bad showing. And there's probably 10,000 fans that maybe would have traveled from Mexico, or maybe there's already 10,000 fans of Cruz Azul in the Texas area or in the United States that they could have went to the game. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities. Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. The only thing I care about when it comes to the side of the game is just being fair, neutral site for both teams. I don't really care how many people show up to it because I'm going to be watching at home anyways. But right. I just want it to be a fair location where both teams, not one team or the other, has a competitive advantage based on where it's located at.
Yeah, and I think we're already at a point where Champions Cup is so hyped that it would sell out. I think you'll get neutrals going to that game. Or maybe, let's say Miami's in a quarterfinal, they release the tickets, you'll get a whole bunch of Miami's fans buying up those tickets. I don't think you're going to have to worry about having to sell out a final, because I already think Champions Cup is is at that level where you don't have to worry about it for a final, at least.
Well, I'll say this though too. I think that we saw LAFC struggle to get people to go to their games, even when it was at home. And it's not because the tournament doesn't matter. I think it's because a lot of people are apathetic to it. Like there's a lot of apathy with them not feeling good about their chance of winning because we always lose. Not much hope.
LAFC has been in so many big games the last 5 years. It's going to hurt your pocketbook eventually. So I think it's a little bit of big game fatigue for them.
Well, there's other teams though too where the stadium really wasn't. It was kind of empty. It wasn't like FC Cincinnati was another team where there wasn't as many people at the games as you would have liked.
The Club World Cup game was only about 20,000 in BMO Stadium, and if I'm not mistaken, that's not a sellout. That's very close to a sellout.
22,000, yeah,
that's about 90%, but it wasn't a sellout. So I think it has a lot to do with fatigue, to be honest.
Well, I think that could be it. But also, if you think you're going to lose, because even if LAFC's been in big games, they still haven't won a Champions Cup. They still haven't won. They've been to 2 finals and still lost.
They basically won the one versus Club Leon now because they beat Club America.
For sure. That I guess that's kind of like their ticket in. But you get what I'm saying, though. Like that game, the game for Club America and the Club America LAFC game felt more hyped. There was a little bit more energy. I mean, you were at the game.
Yeah.
So I obviously didn't get to see it from that perspective, but on TV, it looked crazy. There's a lot of Club America fans there, obviously a lot of LAFC fans there. I just hope that this is a learning experience. Now, Don Garber has failed me many, many times. He's failed a lot of you guys, and I want you to let me know. Give me a report card on Don Garber's job as MLS commissioner down below. Give me a 1 through 10. 1, he is absolute trash, and 10, he's the greatest commissioner of all time. Give me a report card on Don Garber down below.
Give him an 8.
Okay, your score's invalid. But we're gonna disregard what Bobby just said there. But okay, we'll see how they rebound. What actions they take? Are they going to sit on their hands? Are they going to actually do something? They have to change something, Favi. We can't keep doing this every year where MLS is getting embarrassed in the Concacaf Champions Cup final. 2 years in a row, if you add the scores, MLS teams have lost 8-0 in the last 2 games.
Wow.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable. They haven't scored a goal since 2023. Isn't that crazy to think about? They have not scored a goal since 2023 in the Concacaf Champions Cup final.
Yeah. No, I mean, the food poisoning story and the altitude this year, I get it. Maybe if it was a neutral site, we would have scored a goal. So I still think that's a big part of it too. A neutral site and then raise the salary cap.
I'll say this too. Even if we had a neutral site, just the way Vancouver, even if they were going to lose, that was an embarrassing performance. That was just it's just embarrassing. It was a shameful performance that should have never been that bad.
0 shots is wild.
0 shots and Cruz Azul had 13.
Yeah.
13. And they had 5 goals. Cruz Azul had more goals than Vancouver had shots.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
By 5. You know, that's just crazy to think about. Well, Favi, listen, I appreciate you for hopping on. Sad days for MLS, but we got the Club World Cup around the corner, which I'm sure we will see you for. Before I let you go, where can the fine people find your post and your work and find your new articles at Urban Pitch?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at Urban Pitch. I'll have a podcast coming out soon with them too, and you can always find me at Fabian Rankel, and I am Fabian Rankel on Instagram. And you could always do me a huge favor by liking this video below and then making sure you click that bell notification.
Appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you. And you better be on one of these live watch-alongs. We got to do some live watch-alongs together for the Club World Cup. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Until next time, I will see you all soon.